Well, this was intense.
It was. And unique. I'm telling you, I got about 15 minutes into this, and I was like, well, we found our best director.
Well, it is wild to see it. I mean, there are, obviously 1917 is told and filmed in a way that's supposed to feel like it's one shot.
Yeah.
And there are, like, 3 or 4 times where there's clearly a camera cut, where there's the explosion happen.
That one's obvious because he's supposed to go to bed and wake up and it's nighttime.
Well, no, that wasn't the explosion. That was when he got shot.
Yeah.
There's that one. There's the one where he jumps off the bridge, and you can tell the water kind of mishmashes, and it's him floating down the river. And then I would argue the one where the rat trips the trip wires, where there more than likely was a cut.
Yeah.
This movie. First of all, when I walked out, this for me, second best movie of the year. I thought this movie was incredible.
I'm not going to go that far. Is it one of the best movies of the year? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is it in terms of filmmaking? It's
by far at that sense you're like it's
unbelievable.
It's
watch.
So impressive. That's what I.
There are moments of this movie, and I brought it up earlier. There are moments of this movie where it is literally just 2 young men walking.
Yeah, it's Blake and Schofield.
And talking, shooting the shit. And the way the camera's moving, almost, at least for me, when I was watching it, I don't want to say it was distracting, but it was almost like we're showcasing the fact that we haven't cut yet.
See, at that point, I'm ignoring the fact that they're still kind of doing one cut. I'm more focused on them shooting the shit, and I'm enjoying this kind of brief moment of, like, it not being so intense. Because I know it's about to be super intense right around the corner.
And I guess I noticed it the most in that first 45 minutes. When there's not, I don't want to say there's not a whole lot going on, but it's when they're getting ready to walk up
to the house.
No. Everything prior to that, where he cuts his hand, and like at the beginning.
See, I just thought, that whole first part was so intense because they have been told that the Germans have retreated.
No. I mean, I get that. But there's not a whole lot happening.
Well, see, that's honest. If I'm being completely honest, that's what I appreciated about this movie.
And I'm okay with that. But there are moments like where the camera's just
it's just moving kind of around them, or just
and it is. It's like there are times, and it comes with making a movie where it's supposed to feel like there's no cuts.
My question is,
there is some.
Are you thinking that? Okay, so that's your kind of point. Is that
no? Yes and no. It was cool in the sense what you're watching is really cool because they're not cutting, and it keeps you kind of on your shoes because you're not just skipping forward to the next. It's not like some movies where it's cuts. It's like, okay, let's get on to the next thing that's happening.
So linear, because it's told in such a straight line, and they're at war. Like right around the corner, at some point, something's about to happen,
and you're always, because the camera's constantly turning and moving around them, you're constantly looking in the background because they always say keep your eye on the horizon.
Yeah,
and look off into the tree and that kind of stuff. And throughout the whole movie, you find yourself doing it.
Well, something that, and this, it goes back to, you said not a whole lot kind of happens, is something they did, I just thought was really well done, in the sense that they knew that they were doing a movie that they were going to try and make in one shot. Or they were going to try and film it that way. And they knew it was going to be a war movie and it was going to be intense. So they didn't overcomplicate things.
No.
So what they did,
from the
get-go, they give them their kind of objectives, what they need to do. Specifically, crossing, like at the beginning, that whole first part was really intense, where they're crossing no man's land. And like you said, he cuts his hand, and then immediately he accidentally puts his hand into a guy's body, which I think everyone in the theater was like,
oh no. Because your first thought is he's about to lose that hand.
That hand's going to be gone at some point. And that that never happens because the course of the movie, it takes place in like less than 24 hours, I would say, right? It's a night.
Yeah, it's supposed to be late afternoon.
To night to morning.
Yeah.
So...
And you see a certain period of time, and then something happens, and then he, like, wakes up, and most of the night's gone.
Mm-hmm. And that's that sequence in particular, where he's at night and he's at that town.
That's intense.
From the beginning of him arriving at that town, where Mark Strong's character drops him off, all the way until he gets into the river, was, I thought, excellent.
Oh,
because he gets you're looking at the town and it seems abandoned, and how he's like trying to cross that bridge, and all of a sudden he starts getting shot at, and that comes out of nowhere, and you're immediately like, okay, shit, all right, he's but
it feels real.
Yeah, that was, and that it goes into, like you said, every technical award that is given out for award season, just give it to this movie, because it's first of all,
it's beautiful.
It looks really fucking good, and it's just incredibly impressive with what they were able to do, because of
as the viewer, like you said, there are spots where you can say they probably cut there, they probably cut there.
It's not a whole lot, and it seems pretty seamless.
And as the viewer, you know that there's one, and that is when he gets shot.
Yeah,
or he's falling. He's getting shot at. He falls backwards,
and then
hits
it's
his head,
nighttime.
and he hits his head against the ground, and then it's
nighttime.
He wakes up and it's nighttime.
But other than that, they do a pretty good job of making it seem seamless, where it feels like it's one long shot, and it's just majorly impressive. It's not. I don't know. I do want to see this movie again, because there are things. Because there were a lot of... honestly, I need to watch it with kind of closed captionings, because there were some... Not a whole lot, but there were some moments where I was like, that British is a little too British.
When it wasn't just Brit, when he's riding the truck, there was some conversation there that you couldn't... I don't want to say you couldn't. As an American viewer, it's tougher to pick up on, not unless you know... maybe some of the slang and stuff. There was some stuff that was being said, and you were like, I don't know quite what they're talking about.
And that was a really kind of.
Of course, you were kind of supposed to feel that way, because he had just been through. He wasn't paying attention to the
that whole scene too. What he had just been through was. That was intense. But and that scene was interesting, because they realized that he was on a whole other mission, and that he was going through some stuff, and they kind of were helping him out, and that was something it seems to be almost maybe this, I'm not gonna say trend, because honestly it's just the past two big war movies that have come out are Dunkirk and this, and both of these movies are they're not really developing characters, necessarily. It's more about the intensity of war and I wouldn't say spectacle, because that's kind of a poor choice of words describing an actual war that went on, but it's kind of showcasing that. It's showing just like how brutal and kind of ruthless people were at war, and while also...
It's not it's how ruthless people are at war.
Sorry. But it's something where... You're not sometimes, especially specifically in the mission that this kid was on. The Schofield, who's played by George McKay, he's not getting to know people. Like, he's constantly on the move, and that was something that you really look back at how impressive this movie is. You never see the same location twice.
No,
he's constantly moving. Yeah, it goes into the point that this movie is just insanely impressive. It's a movie that I do really want to see again, even though I consider it better than what I would consider favorite. Like, I think it's probably on my favorites list, but it's definitely a movie where I'm like, I think it's the second best movie I've seen this year, behind Parasite.
It's probably in my top 5, maybe.
For best? Mm-hmm. Okay.
But It was just it again. It's one of those things where I'm still, and I thought giving it because we saw this last night and it is now the following night. It's been 24 hours essentially since we've seen this, and I'm still getting over the spectacle of what I just saw.
Right. No,
I haven't been able to even soak in the story and what.
Well, there's not much of this. Like the McKay character, you don't know much about until the very end.
And see, and that's what I'm still processing it all because it is the first. I mean, I walked out of it and I'm like, other than the first thing that comes on, I was like, that was impressive.
So impressive. I mean,
that's my takeaway from this movie is that's an impressive piece of filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that necessarily translates to the best movie, but it is the most impressive piece of filmmaking this year.
While I do agree with you in a sense that it's like even though it's the most impressive movie, doesn't make it the best movie.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like it doesn't necessarily mean that. It's just that for me in this case, I kind of almost believe that it does, and I think it's because of it was an experience, and that's what I love going to the movies for. Is that it's like and that was something.
It was unique.
I was glued. My eyes were glued to the screen.
If there's ever a the next time they try to make like a video game movie, in terms of how this movie is set up, where they're given their objective at the beginning, and you're going to go this direction, you're going to do this, and how it's very, and so you
follow, and you're constantly, and all of a sudden your objectives are almost updated. Like you reach a checkpoint, and you're right. It's strange to say that for a movie this way, but you're right. It's set up that way.
And honestly, the fact that it doesn't cut is very much like
a video game.
And at least the long takes where you play portions, levels, scenarios at a time. I mean, again, this cuts like there's the whole, getting from there from the dead zone.
That part was so intense because
they didn't know. They didn't know they had left.
And it's also
my point is this movie you can break up even though there's not cuts. There are definitive moments where you can break it up. There was they got their objectives, then they did that.
They went through no man's land.
And then they go from what was the German front line to the to the house, and then from the house he gets on the truck. From the truck he's in the town.
To the river.
Then there's the cut, and then it's night, and then he wakes up. It's night.
That
in the town.
sequence, when it's nighttime and the buildings are on fire, those were some of the coolest looking shots of the whole year. Roger Deakins,
because it's
knocked it out of the fucking park.
Because part of it, the reason it's so cool is because, especially in that time period, but now even if you're out in the country, there's no light.
Yeah,
when it's dark, it's pitch black. You can't see 5 feet in front of you.
And that was yes.
He's in that time period, you couldn't see 5 feet in front of you. So the only light there was
that building that was on fire.
Him
running through the town, being chased by people, and it was like spurts of him being lit up by the fire, and then it'd be pitch black, and it was like that whole sequence was just so well done. That was the part that I walked away like, God, it was at that point I was like, this is top 5 movie of the year for me so far. But no, when we were discussing the No Man's Land portion, that part, it's near the beginning, and you realize that this movie's going to be insanely and just intense. And I noticed something, that the score in this movie is Thomas Newman. He's really good composer, and the score is really good. It's really effective. I thought it seemed a little too similar to Dunkirk at times, which is not quite a complaint because it's what it's doing is it's supposed to be
building tension.
It's supposed to be building tension. But what it does a really good job of, it's building all this tension, and they're going through no man's land, building all this tension, and you're ready for them to come across something. And they get to the German front, and there's no one there. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, It was just no.
Well, it was they were under the assumption,
wasn't
and
supposed to
everybody
be-
they kept because they were given their orders, and their orders were Germans aren't there. They've left
And
they've moved back.
everyone
but
else-
but it's a trap.
Yeah,
We don't need to advance. They're trying to bait us into
advancing.
advancing.
Yeah, no, I know.
And
But everyone on the American front or the English front
front.
line was basically like,
Alright.
"This is bullshit. Y'all gonna
Yeah.
go over there. Y'all are gonna get killed." They basically were saying that to him. But and then once they get into that bunker, and the first moment of like shit, like holy shit. Once that happens, there's like no music at that point, which I thought was actually really effective because you're trained to think that like things are supposed to be building tension, and that's a moment that you were talking about where they're just talking.
Yeah.
And joking around and kind of hanging out, and then they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, there's this thing here," and then, I mean,
it's in a matter of like a second.
seconds. I mean,
Yeah.
I would literally say 2 to 5 seconds where it's like you're joking around, everything's hunky dory to possibly dying,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Fuck!" Like it's just out of nowhere. It was just so perfectly well done
Yeah.
with that. I did this. This was a movie I actually had high expectations
It's
for,
funny.
and they met them.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I no
No.
doubt. Me and you were both looking forward to this movie, and you walked away.
you were like, "Man,
Even
that was-
going in knowing what it was gonna be, you still walk away going, I was very impressed.
It's yes,
Something that I think is being completely overlooked in this is the acting.
yeah."
I thought
George McKay was fantastic.
I can't believe he's not being nominated for more.
I think
It's a big year.
it's a stacked year.
but
He's good.
he is really
Well, it's
good.
because he has to carry the movie.
Yeah.
He's by himself majority of the time, and he does a hell of a
I
job.
don't know if he's by himself, but you feel alone.
Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
able to encapsulate that feeling. And something I appreciate about his character, he was he kept things very close to his chest,
Like
and then
at the end, you find out.
you find out why.
Yeah.
And or not why, but it's like what he's been fighting for this whole time, and it's like he's just trying to get home.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
And there's the moment where he talks about he got to go home,
Mm-hmm.
and he said he couldn't enjoy it because the whole time he knew he had to come back.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just want this to be over,
Yes. Anything he can do to get the war
done.
basically. No, I think so too. And there's very small bit actor or small acting bits that are pretty good. I actually really like Mark Strong's small little performance. Benedict Cumberbatch plays the not general, it's not general, not lieutenant.
Oh, good Lord.
It's the guy that he's trying to deliver the letter to.
Corporal? No. Oh my God.
It's okay.
They kept at the end. He asked it about 1 million times.
About 9 times. No, I know. Anyway, he plays
Richard Madden. Is
Richard
that
Madden he plays a character, and he does a really. I mean, again, all these parts that we're describing are seriously like less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Like really small parts, and that shows how much George McKay is on screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a video game in that sense where you are following this character literally for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
He's on screen the whole time, and he does a really, really good job.
What do you give it?
Well, I just said it was the second best movie of the year. Yeah, it's an A. This is an A.
Yeah.
If from a technical aspect, it's one of the more impressive movies I've seen in a long time. To it just being a story that I actually really kind of liked, like I thought I just thought it was a really well-made movie that had a pretty intense story, but it also had a lot of meaning behind it. Like his whole kind of story background of why he kind of keeps fighting, and then you also know he's gone through some shit, and then he's now going through even more intense.
He's won a medal, but you don't know what for.
No, but he's won a medal, and he looked at it. He was like, it was just a hunk of tin.
Yeah.
But what you said an A?
It's an A.
Well then,
go see it. Go see it in IMAX.
Dude, oh yes, we did see this thing in IMAX, and the loudest sound that you can get, the biggest picture you can get. Do yourselves a favor. because I don't think you won't.
It's
get
an
that,
experience.
You will not get that full
It's not-
immersive experience if you're just watching this on your TV at home.
Yeah, it's not one of those things where it's story driven. I mean, it is.
There
it's
is,
a linear story.
but you won't appreciate it as much.
No, you
I
won't
feel like.
appreciate what you're seeing unless you see it on a big screen.
Yeah.
It's
good.
it's something.
Right? I mean, like
It's an experience.
That's how I felt walking out of it. I like you said, I was more caught up with like the technical aspect of it. But as I went home and I thought about it, and this morning I woke up and thought
I still can't get over.
See, I kind of got over that, and I was like, no, this was just I think it's a good movie even without it being in one shot.
It's solid.
See, I don't even think it's solid. I think it's a really good movie.
It's bumped up a couple spots for what it is technically.
Okay, all right. Then that's your opinion, I guess.
Again, by no means is it bad. I still think it would get nominated for an Academy Award.
Right.
Either way. But my point is, it goes from being maybe like a top 10 movie of the year to being like a top 5 movie of the year because of
what it is.
What it is.
Yeah. God. So yeah, shout out to Sam Mendes and shout out to Roger Deakins and for what they did, because it's something that I haven't. It was an experience in a movie theater I haven't had in a very long time.
You think Vin watched this?
Yeah. Yes. Vin Diesel watched this and was like, "Oh, I need these guys for my next movie.
It's about film.
It's about." All right. Well, that was our take for 1917. And yeah, you can check us out next time. So we'll see ya.
It's about family.
I see what this is. It's about family.